All right. All right, welcome everybody to the August 9th special meeting of the town board to review the draft zoning law, and I'll go ahead and open the meeting. So I sent out a list this afternoon, kind of pulled together a lot of the things, simple little things we've talked about before. So should I just kind of go through that list and just, they're pretty straightforward items, one at a time?
Yeah.
Great. So there were three definitions. So let's see, we wanted a definition for lodging. So and I provided a definition for that: a facility where sleeping accommodations are offered primarily for transient travelers and providing accessory off-street parking facilities. The term includes other similar uses such as motels, tourist courts, motor lodges, auto courts, inns, and hotels. So that's one definition, and then because the term transient came up, I'll offer, I think we were looking at non-transient, but I decided it made more sense to get a definition for transient. So transient occupancy of parcel of land or structure on a parcel of land used to accommodate persons passing through or visiting for a brief stay, generally less than a week, but not more than 30 days, for example, in a hotel, motel, bed and breakfast, or short-term rental. And then I asked Nan about glamping. That is in the definitions for campground and camping units that the zoning commission generated. So that's glamping, glamorous camping, glamping site. Short for glamorous camping is a form of camping unit that includes, but is not limited to, amenities such as furniture, residential quality mattresses, bedding, kitchens, kitchenettes, electricity, lights, running water, climate control, and full toilet contained in tents, cabins, or other non-motorized structures that include but are not limited to safari tents, tree houses, yurts, and other accommodations. The glamping facility contains 4 or fewer camping sites. 5 or more shall be considered a campground and regulated pursuant to New York State health law. And that's as so stated in the definition for campground and camping units. So those are the definitions. I thought they seemed okay, made sense to me. Any feedback or questions? They seem okay.
Do you need a motion to accept them or something?
I guess I think I'll just go through everything like we did before and then just do a consent agenda at the end. And
okay.
If we have any items, you should circle anything that you have questions about, and then we could pull it out if we want to discuss it further. So and Jesse, I see one person in the waiting room. Maybe she's.
I think it's
Oh, okay.
I think it's you.
Oh no, it's another. It's not me. I'm Caroline Town Hall.
I know that, but it's your name just spelled wrong. I was just kidding.
Oh, okay. Okay. It's the other Mark Whitmore. So okay, so then Tim had suggested that it might be wise to consider setbacks. So we there is a definition for setback in the draft zoning law. So it's the distance. It was defined as the distance in feet between the building or other use and any lot line or designated point where a front setback may be required. Such setback shall be measured from the edge of the designated right of way established by the road or street. So this is you can do it different ways. You can do from the center line of the road, but this starts from the right of way, which ordinarily I think the right of way is 25 or so feet from the center line.
To the side of the building, to the eaves, like the biggest, most extended part
Say that again, what?
for a setback on the build.
Yeah, so any setback we would establish would be, or the ones I'm proposing are from that edge.
But I think, am I wrong? I think you're wondering to what, to this wall of the building, to where the eaves come down?
Suppose you had a 3-foot eave overhang.
Oh.
Would it be to that, or would it be to the wall?
Yeah, to the
I
wall of
mean,
the building. I
it's a-
mean, sometimes, especially nowadays, some buildings have this big overhang. They might have a big overhang.
Hmm.
Maybe as a way to avoid get past the setback requirements, but
Okay, so what is
right.
so should it be
I think it should be.
the
front.
edge of any part of the building,
Yeah.
of the building structure?
Yeah. Yeah, the drip line of the roof.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Can't think of any reason not to use
I
it.
guess so. Nobody would build a wall out beyond the drip line of the roof, right?
Oh, right. No, I don't think so.
Unless you dare them to.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe you could say wall and or drip line of the roof.
Okay,
Well, I mean,
building,
I'm thinking of falling water, but
between the building furthest extent, or,
yeah,
Yeah,
something like
further sides
that.
of the building.
I mean, I
Somebody
think
had a
that's something
cantilever.
that we could ask. Guy about, just because I'm sure there's a standard,
Yeah.
I would think it would be the building envelope myself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But, they could have a deck
Sure,
on it or
sure.
something, so it might
Yeah.
not want to be the eave,
Yeah.
the drip edge.
Right, might be the deck.
Right,
Yeah, so
so-
any,
okay, we'll check on that. Good point, hadn't thought of that. And so what I had proposed is just 10 feet all around, front, sides and back,
Mhm.
to allow, like in the front, the idea would be to allow enough room for public infrastructure or a sidewalk or something like that, if need be. And this on the sides for passageway and safety access, things like that, so.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that's, okay, great. People had suggested that since we don't have, that beautification, the beautification law, whatever it was called, was rescinded in 1995. So I wrote the following, so that Tompkins County regulates the recycling, reuse, and disposal of solid waste. It's in the code of Tompkins County, Article 4. And then New York State Municipal Law 136 requires any property with 2 or more unregistered motor vehicles be licensed as a junkyard. And there's a Town of Caroline 1982 junkyard ordinance. So I don't know, that's what I have for that section.
seems fine.
It's more elaborate than it was before, but
It's clear.
yeah, okay. And then some other notes. Bill sent us some comments on section 7.2A. It's just a typo, basically.
Yeah,
Good catch.
yeah.
Yeah,
I can't believe how it does all that stuff.
So it's amazing after all the drafts have been read.
Yeah.
That still hasn't been cut.
That was, so I was gonna bring that up, actually, with all these changes you're making, are you factoring into the timeline, time to review to see if the changes have been incorporated correctly? Or is there any way we could sort of get new drafts or whatever with the changes incorporated in as we're pretty close to, as we're discussing it?
yes, so I have a draft that I've been updating, so
Okay.
I can share that with you.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I have it with track changes, but you could just take it and accept all changes and then you
Okay.
have what we have.
So then we could all look at it and.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be like this
Yeah.
humongous thing to check when we're all through with all this stuff.
Yep, okay, that's a great point. So,
Cause that kind of slowed us down, I thought, at various points. That we go all through all this and it's like, okay, now we need a couple of weeks to make sure that all these changes have been
Yeah,
incorporated
yeah, yeah.
correctly.
with the zoning commission?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a good point.
great. Oh, yeah, okay, so that 7.2 is just Article 6, should be Article 7. I made a notation. 7.2D was a wording question, so I took what Bill pointed out in his wording and modified that a little bit. So I have except for uses identified in 7.2B, which is exemptions, and C, which are projects that qualify for abbreviated site plan review, all uses identified in table 1 as requiring a site plan review or a special use permit require review and approval by the review board under the procedures and criteria set forth for site plan review, section 7.1 to 7.8. So that's what it's sort of self-evident,
That's
but
good to me.
Yeah,
seem
yeah,
okay
I actually was a little bit confused by that also.
by the original
Yeah,
wording.
yeah,
Okay, but this seems okay?
yeah.
Okay, great. 7.2 F is, yeah, just an omission there. So 7 should be as specified in the letter D, capital D, which for section D should be added there.
Okay,
In D above.
Yeah.
There's an extra copy of all these things here, if anybody wants to grab it. Yeah.
was this it? Into the extras?
Yep.
Two extra.
Thank you.
Would you like a copy, Joe? You-
Kate not coming?
What's that?
Kate's not coming?
She said,
But maybe she thinks it's the 7.
Oh,
did you text her or anything?
No, I didn't. Oh, well, I would be happy to.
so I just gave away our last copy of these.
Yeah, if you could shoot her a text, that'd be pretty good. She may be preoccupied. Anyway, okay, so that's F. 7.4A. 7.4
15.
A. 15,
These are Bill's suggestions.
Yep.
Right,
they derive from this, yeah,
because I have others earlier. But let's just do these and then we'll backtrack.
is this okay? Okay, should I, yeah, yep. I think, okay. Oh, right, so, so that brings us up to, yeah. Do you wanna offer your comments, Tim, on like scenic resources?
Well, I have starting in 7.1.
7.1?
Yep.
Okay. 7.1,
So the bullet points, foster the preservation and enhancement of significant scenic resources.
let me find it.
Wait, are we going back to
Page
7?
94.
Okay, so we're back at 7.1.
Yeah, sorry, I mean, I just think we might as well go on this.
That's good.
So this is just something that came up for me and it's repeated a number of times in the revised site plan. I'm just wondering what scenic resources are and how the review board would be able to determine that. So I found myself a number of times. There's 4 other places in the revised site plan law where that's becomes in some places, what looks like a standard. So on 7.1 here.
Oh, yeah, it's the, like
7.3,
the seventh bullet point.
Yep. And there's 7.315, which is on page 97.
So isn't there a list of scenic resources that was developed by the county? Is that, we had some
That's
discussion.
a good question.
I mean, I think there is, and some people said they felt that it wasn't complete, but I think we felt, well, at least there's that list and we could work on updating it.
Scenic
And-
resources defined in the town's comprehensive plan is an area of special visual appeal, natural, human made. Include those categorized by Tompkins County as distinctive views, noteworthy views, characteristic views, as well as additional views in the town that contribute to the quality of life of town residents and attract visitors to the area.
But should they be enumerated?
Well,
Oh, in this-
I'm just raising the question
Right.
of,
Like,
if
yeah.
I were on the review board, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, no, and just agree.
Well.
But this does say that they are identified.
Are you looking at our definitions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if it were based on the county's categorization, but then our definition goes on to say, as well as additional views in the town that contribute to the quality of life
Mhm, mhm.
of town residents.
It's kind of open-ended.
The area.
But I mean, I think that was, yeah, I'm just saying what I think. It was there with to have the option of creating a list, because I think people felt like the scenic views, the Tompkins County scenic views weren't very comprehensive and included very few things in Caroline. But that there were, you know, scenic views here that should be included, and it was something you could do at a later time.
Then that would have to be spelled out in law. I mean, what I'm worried about is passing a law that's not applicable.
Yeah.
So that would have to be spelled out in the law somehow.
Seems like it.
Either that or it would be.
But I mean,
take
isn't
it
it,
out until a revision of the law
Wasn't there something?
after such a catalog has been made
I
by the
mean,
town.
isn't it implied in the definition as well as additional views that the town may? Views in the town that contribute, I mean, to me, it's implied that. The town, I mean, if there is no list, then yeah, okay, then we haven't designated any, so. It's no problem, but
I mean, I think until there is such a thing, I'd be more comfortable sticking with the county list,
okay,
just for the time, you know, this is always going to be revised down the road.
Yeah.
Because to do such a list would be a major undertaking.
Yep.
And it
Yep.
would take quite a bit of time if it happened.
Okay,
so would you
that's-
be comfortable just taking out the part about the views in the town that contribute to
Yes,
the,
yes.
okay, but you're comfortable leaving in the
Yes,
designated?
yes.
Okay,
okay, so you're proposing a change in the
In the
definitions.
definition for now.
Okay.
At this stage, yes.
seems,
Is it clear what that change is, Mark?
Yes, it's the last clause that starts with as well as.
Period after characteristic.
Yep.
use. Yeah.
Mhm, thank you.
Natural areas, there was a small list that we had, and like Carolina Pinnacles, which would be scenic, I think was included in that.
I think that's on the county list, right?
Okay.
I think that's the county
Okay.
list.
But we did have a small list
Yeah.
for Carol.
Okay,
So then that would come up again on 7.315.
Yep.
315, which is page 97.
Impacts on scenic resources.
So that's okay, if we change the definition, I'm comfortable with that.
right.
And let me just look at it, I'm not gonna have you go to the other places if it's irrelevant. 7.415.
That's, yeah, Bill brought that one up, right?
So the definition,
It's 7.4A.15.
Yes,
Okay.
page 102,
102.
scenic resources, the design of the development should not block or alter scenic resources. Particularly as seen from public roads, trails, or public access.
does that work with the change of definition?
Well, I just don't know how you could do a development that would not block or alter something.
Something, yeah.
Well, we needed language that's more like,
Should aim.
yeah,
design of the
mitigate or
development
something.
Should aim not to block, something like that. Should
Yeah,
aim
that
not to
seems,
block,
that seems fine. Because then the review board can request
yeah,
visual impact assessment, and
That's
they
right.
can decide if
That's
it's
right.
enough or not.
that's right.
Is adding aim enough of the language change you want? Okay.
Or should aim to mitigate
Blockage
blocking
or,
or altering.
Yeah.
To mitigate blocking or altering.
just blocking, maybe,
Yeah, just blocking,
just mitigate blocking.
because I don't understand how you would alter.
Right.
actually.
Yeah, it's the same thing,
You would-
mitigate.
Yeah.
Blocking. Okay. I think that's a good change.
I'm just gonna do the scenic resources. I have this.
No, that's a good idea.
7.6. No, 7.6. G. That's 7.9. It's good to be taken care of. Somebody just quickly look without bothering you guys with this. Okay, good.
Oh, good.
That. Then going back to 7.318, which is on 97. And most of these are most of these are additions that were made to the current site plan law. Initially by the task force and then pretty readily adopted by the zoning commission. This is impacts on plant and animal resources, including unique natural areas, critical environmental areas. Where areas identified by New York State, this is an addition, as habitat suitable for containing endangered or threatened species, species of special concern, species of greater conservation need, or common birds in steep decline. The one that baffled me was common birds in steep decline.
Oh, are those not that defined? Someplace?
Say that again?
Is that not defined someplace? Is there not a list? of
Well, I'm
common birds
just
and steep-
wondering if common birds in steep decline is so broad that it
Yeah.
wouldn't cause us a lot of headaches and problems.
I think I did look it up, so
Yeah,
things like Baltimore Orioles, a lot of birds are in steep decline.
Yeah.
Across North America, so I do agree that I'm not sure how helpful it is in this context.
I'm trying to save both the review board and the town
Yeah,
potential
exactly.
legal headaches.
mhm.
And also to make it fair to the builders.
To applicants, yeah.
So that's one recommendation that I make.
To just eliminate the common birds and steep
Yeah.
decline category.
I would endorse that.
But keep all the other species of special concern, species of greatest conversation.
Conservation,
Thank you.
Need,
we're not gonna converse with them.
Okay,
Hey, did you get my message?
Nope.
no,
I texted you.
Oh, okay.
40 minutes ago, saying. I'm gonna
did
be
you
late.
get caught on 79 too? I didn't.
I actually forgot my copy of everything in my car. I was actually on time with the rental car to be here. When I had to go. Another car. So. Where are we?
Page 97.
Okay.
Well, I guess my view is it says shall include as appropriate, but not limited to, so it's like they don't have to include that, they can include that according to their best judgment. So I don't mind including that, but
The common birds and steep
Yeah.
line.
if I'm the minority, that's fine too.
So we're looking at number 18 there, Kate. So these are things that the review board
Mhm.
could consider in site plan review, and Tim was bringing up a concern about or common birds and steep decline, that was too broad, that it might be overly broad, or,
Mhm. But they can take it in. They don't have to take it in.
that's what Michelle pointed out, so.
Right. So it's not as though someone's going to step up and say, you have to stop this project because of this
They
bird.
could.
Somebody could,
Somebody could, but the review board.
It would be the
doesn't seem to
discretion of the review board.
They're not
Discussion
obligated to.
review.
they're not obligated to.
No.
To say, oh, you're right, we're going
Yeah.
to not do this. Oh, I see what they could.
They could, but
But how is that? Okay,
This is an addition made to the current site plan law, which is why I'm pointing it out.
I see. So it's already got endangered or threatened species.
Mhm.
so I would say common birds and steep decline is like, a step before endangered,
Okay,
right? They're in steep decline now, so in 10
well, you've
years.
got endangered or threatened.
Yeah.
What, so how does that differ? I know endangered and threatened. But I don't know the definitions of the others.
Well, I think they're capitalized, so they're defined someplace,
Mhm.
so.
Mhm.
Yes, you could look it up.
These species of birds, common flights, birds in steep decline, occurring in the town that are identified by partners in flight as of concern because their numbers are declining rapidly. I mean, I'm not trying to be anti-ecological. or anything.
No,
It just seems to me to be kind of a complicated thing to ask.
Mhm.
Somebody who's just wants to do a simple project. It's gonna require site plan review.
yeah,
Mhm.
to be
well,
responsible.
is it gonna be 1 acre or 20 acres?
Doesn't matter.
I know, but
yeah.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it's a larger site, they could possibly cite it, so it doesn't affect an area that's gonna.
Right.
I mean, I don't know that much about birds, but let's just say Baltimore Orioles like to nest in tall trees, so, rather than cutting down a bunch of tall trees, maybe they could move it
Mhm.
to a different area, so they're not bothering a bunch of trees where Baltimore Orioles are nesting. And maybe they're common and they're in steep decline now, but in 10 years, maybe they're gonna be endangered. And then
Okay,
it's.
that's fine. It's just something that caught my attention. so
Oh, yeah, no, I'm,
Being on the review board, I would look at it as, when it says threatened species, that would cover common birds and steep decline to me.
mm,
Okay. Let's
But I
move
think
on.
they all have different, I mean, so, yeah, it could. Is there a definition of threatened species?
The endangered and threatened species aren't defined here.
Oh, they're not?
No, the species of
Yeah, but
special,
they're
concern,
not capitalized.
Oh, okay,
the species of special concern and greatest conservation need are.
okay, yeah, so I would just go with the,
But endangered and
Categories.
threatened are defined like at the federal level, right? So the state level, who's on which list and.
So let's just stay with that, so that somebody doesn't have a,
I withdraw my concern.
okay,
The next one that I is 7.4. Page 99, 7.46. Yeah. 6. We talked about this, Mark. What did we?
Yeah,
So this.
I
is
was thinking that this is actually okay.
better. Okay, yeah,
Because,
that's right.
I'm assuming, that the. If you buy a new pair of shoes and they say have a lifetime guarantee, that's like, what, 2 years or something, so, so.
This is a revision
The
of.
lifetime of the shoe, not
It's a
the, not the
revision,
given.
protect the roadway without requiring resurfacing or repair for a period of not less than 20 years. That's in our current site plan law. That sounds nuts.
yeah, and that number is just way too long, because even the state DOT.
That's greater than the lifetime of a road, right?
Yeah, the state DOT says 10 years,
That's what I
so
thought.
there could be
Okay.
somebody.
So I think that language is
Yeah,
okay.
that's fine. Thank you. I'm sorry to waste your time.
I mean, no, I mean, we could put parenthetically, I don't know, but it may differ for different roads, so maybe we don't want to put numbers in.
But we usually figure better quality roads have higher traffic and, but 10 years is what the state, it used to be 5, state has moved up what they will CHIPS pay us for. And it's 10, it's been 2 years ago, it was reestablished to 10 years. So that's what they're looking at is
They
the
say 10.
Lifetime. Okay, that's good.
lifetime of the road surface.
7.415, which is page 1 of 2. And this is in addition to the current site plan law. This is historic, archaeological, and cultural resources. Although I specialize in culture and cultural resources, I understand how we could identify historic and archaeological. But I think it could be a real quandary for the review board to figure out what a cultural resource is.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is 17,
17, yeah.
okay,
17,
Residential incorporated reserve
Right.
site.
4, 15,
Wow.
17,
So you feel this could be real quicksand?
quicksand.
Quicksand, yeah.
culturally.
Yeah, I think that,
It's not in the definitions even though
It's capitalized, yeah, it's not there. So, is that the only use of it in the law?
I thought that there was another place, but I don't see. it.
historic, archaeological, cultural value in their environs. Yeah, I think that that is. Asking a lot of the review board.
I do too, and it's also legally very nebulous.
Yeah. Yeah. Happily, we're not Rome, all right? We've got 2,000 years of digging, but
So
it's still,
you're suggesting we eliminate 17?
No, I'm suggesting eliminate cultural resources from 17.
Oh,
Okay.
just cultural resources.
Okay.
Yeah, I think historic and archaeological, I think,
Archaeological, clear.
yeah,
okay.
We have.
don't think we wanna start
Town
taking- ripping down the town
History
hall.
Association,
mhm,
we have burial grounds in
Yeah.
the town, we have our archaeological sites, of course, we want to protect those.
right,
I have an historic bridge abutment on my property.
Well, so there we go.
So
That's
I
cultural.
would say 17 historic and archaeological resources.
Yeah.
Historic and archaeological resources.
Okay,
That seems good.
And then I would take out cultural in the next sentence. The design shall incorporate and preserve sites
Oh,
of
and cultural.
historic
Yeah,
and archaeological value.
How about or archaeological value?
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I will look for, if there's a definition for cultural resources that we didn't get, to just pass it by you so that we can, in case we want to think about it, but, well, in case it matters, in case it matters, so
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I'm comfortable with this
Absolutely,
change.
Yeah. The next one I wanted to look at was 7.420, which is just down the way.
economic and fiscal impact.
These are all additions, 15 through 21 were additions made to the current site. plan.
And so, Bill had brought up this one also. the economic
Yes, correct,
Mhm.
that's right.
So where this comes from, actually, the background of this came from the task force. Because one of the tools that the task force was asked to consider were economic impact.
Hmm.
And so I think what happened is we didn't have a tool for economic impact, but this got then wrapped into the revision of the site plan law.
Hmm.
And the reality is first, we don't have an economic information sheet, which we would need to do if we have this. So that's one point. But I'm just wondering about the development shall not have a negative fiscal impact on the town budget. I mean, I think that that's a good ideal,
Yeah.
but there could be some kind of exciting project down the road, down the road that the town would be willing to have a negative impact for as a kind of trade-off for getting, say, some kind of something.
Right.
So I would just be hesitant to make this so lockstep.
So is there no way to do an economic impact assessment?
To do an economic impact assessment,
Yeah.
first we would need to do a town economic study
Okay,
to develop a benchmark for the economic study.
so in other
And
words,
then an economic information sheet you could do anyway, that's separate, we just had to figure out what that
I
is.
see. So at this point, the review board couldn't require an economic assessment,
Well, it may require an economic impact
but it
assessment.
sounds like they would be unable to. Because we don't have
think
the
so.
tools.
They would
Right.
be unable to because we don't have.
Because
the
there's no,
Any-
So it
But-
doesn't make sense to say they may require it because they're not able to do it.
but in the future, they may be able to,
Yeah,
In which point, in which case you could add it then.
yeah.
if people remember to add it.
So the question that I have is, what about the development shall not have a negative net fiscal impact on the town budget? We could say the development's impact on the town budget could be taken into consideration, something like that. I just like
That
some wiggle room.
sounds, yeah,
Sounds good.
that gives more flexibility to.
Yeah.
Right. So what was that, the development? The development.
The development's impact
Shall we take it into consideration?
on the town budget
Right. Yes,
can
that
be taken into consideration.
Or,
can
okay.
be.
Because an economic
Should be.
impact assessment, that's different from the town budget, so that would be the impact on the entire town.
Mhm.
So that would be, let's say, if a big business wanted to move into town. And the community was worried about its impact on a smaller business that it might end up squeezing out. That's where an economic assessment would happen. That's not infrequent in large cities. Just when I learned about the task force.
Mhm.
But to do that, you have to engage in your own economic impact assessment. I mean, your own economic,
You'd have to have a study.
you'd have to have a study. We could decide to have a study.
Yeah,
So is it okay to leave that language in there because it says may
Mhm.
for the case when we have a study, or are you suggesting we remove that final sentence?
I like to leave it in as it has may. In it. Trusting not the people on the
I
zoning
would
board.
ask Guy's opinion on this.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so.
I mean, we could always develop an economic information sheet. That's not. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure we could find a template for that. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
So shall we say
Yeah.
may leave that, but ask Guy to take a look at
that's
it?
good.
And we have modified the second sentence as you
Mhm.
did earlier, right?
Yes,
So,
yeah.
okay.
So the site restoration requirements. Where do those escrow funds go?
So we're going
Oh,
there
sorry.
next, so
I thought we were done with 20.
Just waiting for Mark to get this all down.
I'm good.
Good.
Okay.
So the reason that this is initially confusing, it's a good question, is because on 7.5. 7 point. That's good. Farther on, we have a thing about escrow. Defined,
Yeah, that's escrow for legal review.
so that's for legal review.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so this. I just thought was they. Also, I think Bill might have pointed this out as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he did.
So where this normally would come into play is, let's say, an outside corporation would come into town and gonna build some kind of project.
Mhm.
And a lot of those corporations have histories of floating things and communities. There are a couple of buildings in Dryden that you can see in downtown Dryden that they then just abandoned. And in one case, built another one around the corner, just on a better street. And abandoned it, so that the reason that some towns have this kind of a clause is to make the builder responsible for that potentiality. Or the developer. I just find, as it's written, it seems way too vague.
So can we make it more specific or defined?
I'm just thinking of all the things that could happen, some developer builds a building. I think, Tim, that the situation you're referring to is where the Victory Market was built there on 34.
Yeah.
And then they went bankrupt, went out of business, and then Dollar General went in there for a while until they built a.
That's
new
right,
building.
that's what it was, yeah, and then they built around the corner, that's
Yeah.
right.
So,
I think we need to do research on
I
that.
think that has to be researched.
Yeah, okay.
To make sure it can be applied.
well, you've got a company that
Just
just comes and
maybe-
builds something and then goes bust, and then how does, I don't
I
know.
mean, I think it's a good idea, but
Yeah, of course,
no,
what are you gonna do when they're done with, we just
And
don't
where's
want
the-
abandoned buildings left around.
how are the funds held, how long are they held?
We must be
Yeah.
able to find some models for how other places.
Maybe that's something we can ask Nan about.
Yeah.
So did you say you asked Nan about that?
I did. I
Okay.
haven't heard back
Oh, you
yet.
already did?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I was also wondering, so the escrow funds there and in G coming up. Does the town hold them then? What happens to escrow funds?
The townhomes.
Town
The
halls.
town holds them.
Town does.
Okay.
We held the funds for the AT&T tower. There was an escrow.
Okay,
Yeah, that's less uncommon. More and more common.
Double negative.
Great.
7.6 G. I don't know if we did that or not, but that has cultural sites again. We don't know about that.
Mhm.
Six
Oh, yeah.
G, so it should be historic or archaeological resources.
Cultural sites and resources.
So it should be historical or archaeological
Mhm.
sites and resources, I guess. And down, right down below that on K, there's common birds and steep decline again,
Mhm.
although we kept that.
I thought we
Yeah,
decided.
We decided to leave that alone,
That's
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
It's been a long day. 7.6. Oh, 7, so page 106. Which is 7.6.4. Then I. This is something that I just noticed. This is erosion control plans, grading plans, if existing elevations or contours are to be changed more than 2 feet. This is for the site plan checklist. Our current plan says 4 feet. So I don't know why the task force subcommittee would have changed that to 2 feet. 4 seems to be
Maybe they,
perfectly reasonable to me.
I don't know. I wonder.
You know, this is again another,
Mhm.
just adding to the weight of
Yeah.
what you have
Yeah.
to do, and 2 feet is this.
Right,
It's a foot.
4 foot is that.
You better use a ruler.
I
Yeah,
mean, most projects would disturb the land 2 feet. Conceivably. 4 feet significant, 2 feet is just.
that's, I think that's if final existing elevations or contours are to be changed that much.
Right.
If that matters.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Okay,
So I
Erosion
don't know,
control
I mean, I
plans.
would be happy to keep it at 4, but I just thought I'd bring it up because I was, checking all the changes.
I think we should check on that.
So, yeah, I'm assuming that, I mean, the development's not gonna be on a steep slope.
well, so it's, in other words, you're asking for a grading plan, right? If you,
Mhm.
so how you're gonna grade it for,
Right.
For erosion.
so
control plan.
is that a problem? To ask for that, or?
Well, it's more work. I mean, it's not an insignificant ask to ask somebody for a grading plan and erosion control. I'm just bringing it up because it is a change.
Yeah, I don't know how to base it, but I guess I feel like these are for developments, right?
That's right.
I feel like
This would be
if you
for,
want to do a development, you've got to.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah. This is for development.
Well, you
Yeah,
don't,
I
you
like-
don't, you don't take the water ones off your site and dump it on your neighbor. Which is something that's been seen a lot in developments,
Mhm.
right,
that, you grade it. And all of a sudden you've got all the sheet erosion going and ruining our neighbors. Or making it wet.
Yeah, let's
Right.
keep it, let's keep it.
Let's
So
keep
I'm
it.
sorry, I just,
Well, I mean, it's worth.
Okay, we're talking about development here, but not, you know.
you know, we're talking about a development and not a regular thing, so
That's
that's
right.
fine. So let's keep it.
Okay, vegetative buffers, so buffers capitalized. Is that what we want?
That's because it's a definition.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
And it's not a verb.
it's not a verb, right, got it.
That's why we have.
not.
7,
That poor Nan went crazy after we said, you gotta capitalize all the definitions. And she was like, oh my God.
W, we do have an economic information sheet required for W.
Okay,
And so,
We have to decide if we're gonna keep that in there, and if we keep it in there. we have to make
yeah,
one.
we haven't decided yet, right? So we'll have to circle that and watch.
I mean, for a large development, we could ask for one. That doesn't mean that we would have to do an economic impact study.
right.
We could ask for an economic information sheet. That's different.
So is that in fact available from the town clerk?
No, because we don't have one.
Don't have
Okay, so yeah, so I think that's,
We have to make
Yeah,
one.
I'm
Yeah.
curious about that too. Is it, it's divorced from the economic impact study and all that, you know, is it? Or-
Well, it could be.
Okay,
I mean, an economic impact study would be much more scientific. An economic information sheet would allow the review board to say, whoa,
Right, maybe we need a,
but they
Right.
wouldn't have any way to counteract it.
well, if they had the
We don't have an
economic
economic impact
information sheet, then they might go back and say, we're going to ask for the, you know, economic impact assessment. That might be connected that way. So just two-step process.
Yeah, I'm just bringing what I learned on the task force is that to ask for an economic impact assessment, the town has to have an economic impact.
Impact, right,
That's my understanding.
that's our next project. Yeah.
Very expensive.
Right.
I mean, you know, this is the sort of thing where we have to decide
Right.
what's worth, what
Yeah.
investments are worth it
Mhm.
at this stage. And of course, this law can always be revised.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's my memory too, that,
Do we have? I mean, we'll have some notes, right? So people can refer back to going, oh, we took this out because we don't have a town economic impact assessment. I mean, we don't currently, but we want to have one in the future, or we see a need coming up. I don't know, just so that like,
Depends on how detailed you're asking the town clerk to work.
sorry, Jesse. Yeah.
anyway,
Okay.
we're taking notes,
Okay.
but,
Yeah, we know. So that's something that we either have to keep in or take out at some point. And or develop it, one or the other. Another change that I noticed is on the same page, 107, 771A.
yeah,
The review board shall review the site plan application for the applicability of the review criteria. The current site plan law says the review board chair does that. So and I'm sure that's done for economics, so the review board chair would look at the stuff and say, this is ready to take the review board, this isn't. So the question is whether we want to saddle the entire review board with that.
I think it should be a review board function myself.
Okay,
That's my opinion.
What does it do for timeliness?
Excuse me?
What about timeliness?
No, they would schedule a meeting and
Yeah, we know how those go. I mean, if the chair just looks at it and said, yeah, let's take it to the whole board. It just seems it would,
But this is where they're looking through all these criteria
Yeah.
to say whether these are applicable. What if then, it just happens by the chair and then other members are like, I think this should have been applicable.
there's-
I think it's good to,
have
Paul.
more, another set of eyes looking at it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to,
That's just why I brought it up.
yeah, no, I'm glad you did.
I mean, this could be something we could ask Craig about
Mhm.
also. I don't remember if that came up in their review of this document. I don't think it did. I don't remember seeing it. I just noticed it when I compared all the changes.
Well, I guess I see that there's an argument for having another set of eyes and, seems like it's putting a lot on the chairperson to do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They withdraw that. I'm just pointing stuff out also, this, and I only have a couple more, 773, which is the next page. This is with another change. It says the review board shall conduct a public hearing on the site plan. The current site plan law says the review board shall conduct a public hearing on the site plan if considered desirable by a majority of its members. So the current site plan law gives some flexibility there.
Hmm.
I'm sure that in the case of maybe something very tiny,
Mm.
Yeah,
which is probably why it is, instead of having constant
Yeah.
public hearings. But on the other hand, that makes the public hearing arbitrary.
so if they had a couple of projects going on, could they have one public hearing for a number of projects all at once? I'm just wondering.
Where you have individual public hearings for each project.
Right, but it could be the same evening.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
okay.
I mean, I like this wording and I like this process. I can understand that, after our moratorium period, so there may be, there may be a few projects, but, typically the review board has like 1 or 2 site plans a year
Mhm.
at best.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna be having a few more now.
Well,
Yeah,
but
Well, they
I mean,
haven't had it for a while.
yeah, so
January.
anyway,
It seems fine to me
That's
also.
fine, okay.
Yeah.
Then the only other one that I had a question about was 7.711. What is that? I don't see a 7.711
it's on page
Page
110.
110, yeah,
about the performance guarantee,
okay.
who that is. 110.
I have a notation that it should be capitalized and spelled with a Y instead of 2 E's. That's all.
Um,
Oh, I know, I noticed it just because it was brand new, so that's, I don't have any problems, it's just brand new.
I've got a mark next to it, hold on, I'm trying to remember why.
It is defined, so it should be
Yeah.
capitalized.
And for the site plan, that is the last of my,
So why did you note performance guarantee? Because it's new?
because it's new, I just
Okay.
thought it was significant enough that it merited our noting it.
So how
I'm
is this,
thinking
how is this different?
probably- I'm thinking this is probably something that Nan added.
Okay. So how is this different from the escrow account? I guess they don't have to put money down for the guarantee.
Right. And one of the things that Nan explained to us that she was concerned about,
Mhm.
both in relationship to our site plan law and our quicker development law, whatever,
Mhm.
that she felt that there were too many holes in it that didn't protect the town. So I'm sure that's why she built that in.
Yeah.
For all required public improvements and utilities, all earthwork, landscaping, site restoration, which are integral parts of the final site plan.
I mean, I'm quite fine by it. That was the only major change that I wanted to call our attention to.
Mhm. So this is something that the code officer.
So that would hold them legally liable,
Right.
basically,
Right.
if they have.
Okay, thank you for
It was a blast.
that thorough review. Um, The only other thing I had was 7.5.C2. That it should read review board instead of planning board.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where that page is now.
Five.
Yeah,
104.
6.
Other comments or questions?
For Article 7.
With that,
You mean for Article 7?
yeah. Or anything.
I have something for. Where did my email go? For Article 9.
Is there anything else for Article 7 that people want to bring up?
No, I think I'm set.
So the last 3 items you're waiting, that Bill brought up, the scenic resources, economic fiscal impact, site restoration, escrow funds, you're waiting to hear back from Nan. On those.
That's right.
Okay.
Um, You had comments about Article 9?
Yeah, anybody have any for Article 8? That's fine with Article 8.
I don't.
No.
I had one for Article 9. Article 9, 3C, which is on page 122. This is the non-conforming use, maybe expanded up to an additional 25% of the existing operation or size. However, such expansion shall be required to be approved by the review board as a special permitted use. I mean, I found myself wondering whether that couldn't, this wouldn't be a case where this could be approved by the code officer. Instead of taking it to the review board. So what this is the grandfather clause.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just trying to think of the impact on
the review
people
board.
worrying about the impact of that on, maybe this could be something if it were. Just checked off by the code officer,
As to whether or not it's okay, because it's possible that it wouldn't be okay.
right?
Well, it would have to be checked by the code officer anyway, right?
Well, or by the enforcement officer. Depends
Does
on
the code
Right.
officer check on land, like you, because it's use of
Well, it could be in the next article. We just have to clarify whether it's the code enforcement officer or zoning officer or an enforcement officer. But I was thinking the enforcement officer in this case could just do it. And then if there were a problem, then they would send it to the review board.
I'm sorry, can you tell me what page are we on again?
It's 122
122, okay,
C.
all right.
I think it should be the review board. Because such expansion shall be required to be approved by the review board as a special permitted use. And with an approved site plan. Pursuant to Article 7. And 8 of this local law
Yeah, so it needs a special use permit.
and the site plan
Yeah.
review.
That seems like a lot to put on the code officer.
I don't,
Yeah.
I think it has to be the review board.
Yeah.
I think it's better to be the review board, I think it'll be more balanced. When it's not just one person.
Thanks, it's just something that caught my attention. The only other thing that I have is Article 10, enforcement and administration. And I think we mentioned this last week. To give ourselves some flexibility, so it's not just the code enforcement officer, but also potentially a zoning enforcement officer, or we could just say shall be enforced by the enforcement officer.
Is that in A, you mean?
Yeah, I think 123.
I don't think it'd be,
Okay,
somewhere in here, we do refer to the enforcement officer. 11.1.4.
where are you?
5.4. 11.5.4.
That's the next.
I think that's what it was, yeah.
11.
Oh, I,
Enforcement officers applicable to the person shall be referred to collectively in this article of law as enforcement officer.
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
Page 130.
Okay. Oh, I got it. All right.
four.
So we do refer to it as enforcement officer in the zoning board of appeals article.
Okay.
And I suppose, Mark, if that were the case, wouldn't it then be the town board's decision during the January meeting to then identify who would be the enforcement officer?
I guess so.
That's a determination, and then it also shouldn't be stipulated in here whether it's, because we've got a building code, New York State Building Code Enforcement Officer, and we may well have a Town of Caroline zoning code enforcement
Right,
officer.
I mean, it could end up being one and the same, but we want to make sure we give ourselves latitude, that it doesn't have to be.
And we don't want to create a. If we've got both, you don't want a. Well, it's your responsibility, it's your,
Oh, that, yeah,
Oh, I see, good. But it's,
And some local towns have both, some have one.
everything just wants to be stipulated.
most small towns have the building officers, also the code enforcement officer. But yeah, we should provide the flexibility to make it workable.
well, can we, at the beginning of this section then, hold on. You should, Ford is,
I mean, we could say the code enforcement officer and or the zoning enforcement officer, or we could just say the enforcement officer.
if we had enforcement officer, do we then have to like put in parentheses code and or zoning? Or just enforcement officer?
No, because that would then be something that we would delineate in the January,
Okay.
wouldn't that be the case, Mark?
Okay.
Yeah, I just,
Or is it just something that's? You know, we've got a zoning. Rules off,
say that again?
what, we've got a building code. And then we've got two distinct. Things, we've got building code, and we've got zoning code. And just who. If it's one person that oversees both, I think it should be clearly delineated. You know, whose job is,
Yeah, I agree with that.
so that's all.
But I think what we're trying to do is make sure the language here allows us to
Right.
do either one
Correct.
is all.
Yeah,
Right. I like the idea of,
I came up with enforcement officer just because it was in the appeals section.
catch all.
And that seemed rational.
yeah,
Seems good.
or it would be the zoning officer, right? Like. We could just call him that, right? Or,
Or maybe you work it the other way, that, you know, the titles. I just don't want somebody going, not my job.
oh, yeah, no,
The guy question.
like, yeah, because like, I mean, the building inspector is often, just colloquially known as the code enforcement or the enforcement officer, so
I mean, many towns do have building inspector doing both.
yeah.
I could see it might be a good
Tickets for
question for
violation of
guys.
zoning law.
So I know other local towns have a planner that does the zoning. So, yeah,
So,
Yeah.
all right,
so maybe
if
we,
someone violates the code right now, they get,
I mean,
we've usually just talked with them, and right, the codes officer usually talks to them.
I
and
mean,
gets
the
them.
function of the zoning enforcement officer is just gonna be to guide applicants about allowable uses and
Mhm.
working through the process, right? So.
Right.
Enforcement if necessary.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
I mean, regardless if you have one or two different,
Mhm.
let's say, people doing this,
Mhm.
they have to work in synergy anyway.
Mhm.
These aren't
Yeah.
totally independent situations. And currently it's our code officer who refers things to the review board.
Mhm.
So everything
Okay.
crosses his desk first. Right,
Yeah.
Right.
For site plan review, subdivision review, yeah.
And then that would go to the state Supreme Court.
we hope not.
I hope not to.
I
Yeah,
don't-
I'm just,
Yeah, that's, you know,
hopefully nothing will ever get to
Our
that.
review board has always been really smart
Right,
and nothing has
Yeah.
I've been around, nothing has gone
Yeah.
to the state Supreme Court. Just
Okay.
make good decisions.
so I think the easy solution to what we're grappling with is this: just have this local law shall be enforced by the zoning officer who shall be appointed by the town board.
Okay.
Right, and that could be the building inspector.
Right,
Jesse found a resolution from like, correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse, I thought it was the nineties where they appointed the town clerk as the building inspector. So she had a lot of work.
There's a lot of history behind that.
Okay, maybe Cal can tell us about that afterwards. Okay.
Not really.
Okay, so I think we resolved that one, right?
yeah,
Okay.
oh, we need on page 124, which is and the 11. We just need.
Oh, we need that number put in there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, the local law number.
Yeah,
which Jesse had, and I just forgot to transpose it.
yeah, I think
Maybe did
it's,
my notes, let me look,
one, but
that's my recollection.
yeah,
I think I might have it written down, so.
that's.
Yes, local law 1
Great.
of 2023, code enforcement law and regulations.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I guess we should title it how we titled it.
Yeah, I asked Jesse and that's how it is.
Great. Great. So.
Was that fun?
What?
Look at him, grinning like a
So we'll-
chicken out of the desk.
Half years. Also, 3 years.
I will make these updates to the document and then share that with you. And we have some answers to get for the next meeting,
Mhm.
so we'll spend some time at the next week's business meeting as time allows, working on this.
Okay.
What are we gonna do in terms of?
So first, before you go anywhere, did I get all the comments for tonight or any? Yeah. So, because then I'm gonna. For the decisions we did make, then I'll offer a resolution to adopt those. Second by Tim. So shall I call a vote? All in favor?
Hi,
Aye. Great. Opposed? Okay, adopted.
so Mark, my question was just gonna be. Whether we're gonna send all of these changes to Guy now or next week or what should we do?
I think I should send them the changes.
I think it will help.
Yeah, and I'll send them to you too.
Okay.
So I have a running list of the changes we made on each meeting date, so I'll just update that and share it with everybody.
That's good.
Okay, and
Um,
then
So we
we'll hear
had
from Nan and just figure that
Yeah.
out next meeting.
Discuss that
Right,
for those three
right,
Issues, yeah.
items.
Good.
So do some more homework on that.
We had a meeting with Guy and Nan yesterday, was it yesterday?
Mhm.
It was yesterday. And Guy's. They're working on the seeker statement. And also Guy's beginning a legal review of the law, so he's ready. to-
okay, great.
Great. If there's nothing else, I'm gonna call the adjournment of the meeting.
I had a couple of questions from the last meeting, but I think it's more just discussion thing. one of the things on the maps was temporary streams. And seeing as how I have a couple temporary streams on my
Okay,
property, I was wondering, am I allowed to move temporary streams?
I
In
think,
other words, here's the stream, but you know, if I
so
say
you,
I want to put a barn
Right.
here,
so if
Oh,
you,
I
if
see.
you move,
even though it doesn't apply because it's ag, but you know, but can
but
I,
then you'd move the riparian buffer too.
that's what I think, but I just want to be,
I don't think so. I don't, so
you know, we've got our map that says, you know, here's a.
that's, I think that's a question,
for
that's a
DEC
DEC
For
question, right?
DEC,
Yeah,
okay.
I
So
would think so.
I will ask about that,
I was gonna follow up.
alteration.
Will be under the ag rules, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
but
so what-
supposing,
if you
I
want to
remember
drain
when
the
the guy
field,
down on
but
where
drainage.
Thomas Road
Would
moved
you
the
speak
stream,
up to DEC
but that's
on
not,
that?
the DEC jumped all over him.
depends.
Yeah, well, that's a wetland
If you're-
there. That's
a
a
wetland, right?
state
Like I
wetland,
wanted to
so,
drain that there on Ellis Hollow Road years ago, we were working it, but I couldn't because it was a designated wetland.
Yeah,
Because I wanted to square the field up,
oh, yeah.
Okay,
and they wouldn't let me do it.
mhm.
So,
I think that's the answer.
Yeah. So we, zoning's not affecting any of that stuff. People have to remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but,
Good point.
It's out of our control.
yeah,
So,
Did you have another, you had a couple?
I just wondered if people saw the article in, was it the Tompkins Weekly about landfills? And, you know, how the Seneca Meadows is gonna be closing in a couple of years, and it doesn't really. But, you know, there's a lot of open rural vacant land in the town of Caroline. I don't know that we have any say with zoning or anything about anything like that, but
Well, I think so. It's a commercial enterprise.
is it a commercial enterprise?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, that's one of the primary reasons that I continue to believe that we really need. a
Do
zoning.
we, does it say anything in here about landfills?
Right, so it's not allowed.
Hmm?
It's not allowed, since it's not in there.
But is it,
I don't-
it's not municipal, so it wouldn't,
that's right. Well, what if it's, yeah, I mean, it's not state, it's,
The Senate.
I can inquire.
That's a
I
private
don't know.
company.
Yeah.
So
No, I just- yeah.
I hear your question.
Yeah,
you know, there's a lot of, you know, or maybe not even directly in Caroline, I think up all that land, it's in Tioga County up on Eagles Road there, about halfway between.
no, I think that's a really important,
Nobody, much, it wouldn't affect much anybody,
yeah,
you know. I don't know, I mean, it just, we all generate way too much waste and it's gotta go somewhere. And I don't know, I just, you know, I just saw that and I just go, well, we've got a lot of vacant land around here. Or, you know, if something is not permitted, but, you know, somebody. I don't know, it just really left me
okay,
a little anxious. We used to have, you know, years ago, we had the landfill over on Caswell Road, county landfill, before things started going to Seneca Meadows. And, you know, maybe the
so
county
it's
starts
it's
thinking.
municipal or a state landfill, but
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
have to
That's a
find
good
out about
question.
it. I don't know. I didn't see the article.
was that this week?
Oh,
Yeah.
Tompkins Weekly.
Yeah,
so we're talking, so and setbacks, we're talking to Nan about, is that correct?
What?
Did we decide about the setbacks?
Oh, you weren't here.
We adopted them.
we adopted them, but we have to figure out the language, about what part of the building, right? Whether it's the wall or the building envelope or
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
Okay,
So,
the
yeah,
eaves, or, you know,
right, I would think. the
okay,
envelope-
before you came, we did 4 things, so we
Okay, yeah,
approved 3
thank you.
definitions.
Good
Okay.
memory.
And then the setbacks,
Okay,
and then we turned the site plan.
okay, all right,
Oh, yeah, I forgot you missed that.
I missed that.
Sorry.
That's okay, I was late. I'm sorry I was late.
All right,
okay.
so, we voted on adjournment?
Yep.
No,
And then-
no, no.
No, we haven't.
We
you-
didn't?
You put it forward,
Okay.
I'm gonna second it.
Good, because we were, yeah, so,
Yeah, I'll second it.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thanks, everybody.
who's opposed?
Happy.